Hi there, Hans from Siegecraft Electronics here, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to install an LED adapter set into your classic Bally or Stern pinball machine. This particular case we're going to be installing it into this Mr. and Mrs. Pacman. Now I chose this machine for a few reasons. One of them is that I live in South Dakota. There are not many pinball machines out here to buy, and I could actually get one of these. Ballys are just not that thick on the ground out here in usable condition. But realistically, the other features that are really unique to this machine are that it uses an auxiliary lamp driver board. In this case, it uses it for the pack maze on the main playfield, but also it has the rapid fire style cabinetry to it, which is unique to a couple of games, Mr. and Mrs. Pacman, Centaur 2, Rapid Fire, of course, and 8-Ball Deluxe Limited Edition. And this kind of changes up a couple of requirements. So everything here is going to apply to all your standard machines, but also give you a couple of unique features on these. Now, with your classic Stern machines, of course, they will still use the main LED adapter set that I'll be showing you, but none of the Sterns will use an auxiliary set. So when we get to that point, you can probably skip out of the video and go back to watching something more interesting. But what I'm going to do here, I'll get this machine powered off and start showing you guys how we do the installation. Now, before we go ahead with the installation, let's show you what we're going to be installing. Because this machine features an auxiliary lamp driver board, we have two different items here. The main LED adapter set, which is used for basically all your Bally machines and Stern machines, and also an auxiliary lamp driver set, in this case made for the -52 style auxiliary lamp driver, which has two output headers on it. In the LED adapter set, you're going to have, in addition to the instructions, we're going to have 3 adapter boards, one that will apply to each of the 3 connector headers on your lamp driver board, and also a wiring harness. For the auxiliary lamp driver set, we're going to have 2 adapter boards and additional wiring harness as well. Now these are, of course, because of the auxiliary design, are going to be the larger 156 style connectors as opposed to the 100 style connectors on the smaller Molex connector there. Each of these boards is going to be labeled for the connector that it gets used on, J1, J2, and J3, and you'll have them with your writing facing upward when they're installed. But the trick is that you need to also connect the wiring harnesses together later on, which I will show you when we get to that point. Of course, with the machine powered off, the first step is going to be to remove your back glass. In this particular case, 2 back glasses to remove. Typical stuff, lift up, lift out. Then we're going to open our, well, it would be a lamp panel in most other machines, but here, of course, you just have the basic fluorescent. Mine, I still have the screw installed here, so we'll remove the screw. Panel will swing open, exposing the main driver board and the auxiliary driver board on the inside of the lamp panel. We're also going to have to remove the lamp panel down here, though, simply because this is where we're going to have access to controlled lights that we need for the power on the LED adapter set. And I did cheat. I already removed the 4 screws because I'm sure you guys loved watching me spending so much time removing screws when I did my LED display videos. There we go, access to everything we need. Now the nice thing about Mr. and Mrs. Pacman is that your lamp driver boards are co-located with each other. So you can have your main lamp driver board here, your auxiliary lamp driver board here. Makes it a bit easier for the filming. I can kind of show everything in one frame at the same time. I don't have to move around a lot. But just be aware that in your machine, these boards could be in a lot of different places, depending on where Bally needed at the time. So you'll have to maybe check your manual, look around in the machine a bit to figure out where these boards are. With the main lamp driver board, we're going to be concerned with mainly 3 connectors, J1, J2, and J3. On the LED adapters, you will notice that we are equally labeled for which connector they're going to go onto. J1 and also J2, J3 are marked accordingly. Installation here is pretty simple. Basically, you're going to remove connector off of the header, in this case J2. Take appropriate adapter for J2. Your key pin is marked, but of course I don't have a keying plug in there, so you'll have to make sure to line these up straight. But you're simply going to install your adapter onto the connector on the board, and replace the connector onto the adapter board. Repeat this for all 3 of the connectors on your main lamp driver. Again, making sure that your marking is correct for the lamp location you're installing it on, and making sure that all the writing is facing right side up. And again, reinstall your connectors. The next step is going to be install the wiring harness. This is going to be the harness that has 3 of these smaller Molex connectors on it and an alligator clip. With this, you can install it in any way that is convenient for you. All of these wires will eventually connect together. So we're going to connect to J1, J2, and J3. The alligator clip we'll use in a moment. But before we proceed any further, we're going to go ahead with our auxiliary lamp driver. Now, because of the variety on these connectors are not marked, but at the same time too, you can go by the number of pins on them. These connectors will be a little more difficult to pull off just because of the larger pins. And in this case, it is connectors J2 and J3 that you'll be installing the adapters on. Sometimes you may need to move other things out of the way to make your life easier. Just remember to reinstall it later. And reinstall your main connectors. The wiring harness here is going to be slightly different. You're going to have 2 Molex connectors here. Now these will of course install on the 2-pin Molex headers on your adapters. Here though, you're going to have a Molex crimp connection instead of an alligator clip. This is intended to be installed onto the pre-existing adapters. You're going to notice up here on J1, only 1 crimp pin is installed here. So you will insert the crimp from your auxiliary set into the main set, reinstall your connector. Now, at your preference, feel free to shorten these wires as needed to make them cleaner. Again, this is left a bit longer to allow a lot of variety for where you go. The most important part though is going to be this alligator clip. This is your power lead for the entire adapter set. If this is not installed in the right spot, things are going to get a little weird. In the case of a Mr. and Mrs. Pacman, you do not have a main lamp board here for your general illumination and controlled lights. So you're going to take your alligator clip and run it down into the lower section of your back box, in whichever way gives you the most clean and accessible installation. And also make sure to reinstall your other connector if you removed it. Now this alligator clip here is one of the more critical parts of the installation of the LED adapter set. This is the main power that supplies all of the adapters, and they are wired in series, so if this is not connected correctly, none of the adapters will work, and things are actually going to look worse than without the adapters. So you need to install this onto a controlled lamp, the power side of a controlled lamp. This particular machine, you have 6 lamps on your display panel. 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom are controlled lamps. The one in the left center is going to be a general illumination light. You need to make sure to use the controlled lights. The way you can spot these is, in this case here, you can see there's a common braided line running to all of the controlled lights. This is the power side of it. The other side has a single wire coming off of a thinner gauge. This is the individual lamp wire. Your general illumination lights are typically going to be wired up in parallel. So in this particular case, you see it has two heavier gauge wires on each side, or you may have a braided wire running from lamp to lamp on both sides. The key is that your GI lights are going to have multiple wires on both sides. Your controlled lights are going to have a single wire on one side. Another way you can identify a controlled light is that on the back glass, typically your controlled lights are going to be the only ones that have lamp shields, because they're only going to be turned on at certain times to illuminate specific spots on your back glass. You want to take your alligator clip and you want to clip it onto the power side of any of the controlled lights, like this one here. Now, alternatively, if you wanted to, you could also solder that on, but we give you the alligator clip to make it convenient and easy to install and also remove if you're a purist that's received one of these sets and want to restore the machine back to original condition. And also, one of the things you can do, like in this particular machine, the wire is a little bit on the short side. So if you wanted to, you could, of course, replace with a longer wire for a cleaner installation. I use 22 gauge UL certified wire, so something of a similar nature would be the primary choice for you. But at this point, we can install the lamp panel back in, and essentially the LED adapter set is installed and finished. And there we are, up and running, LED adapter set installed. And there we are, everything's fully reinstalled. LED set is running nice and smoothly. You can see on the two spots here, game over and your high score to date. There's no strobing on them whatsoever. So this machine is now ready to install a full LED set throughout the playfield.